All right, let's head to Dartmouth in Devon. Now, this is a place where history isn't just something you see in a museum, you know? It's literally built into the stones of the streets, into the deep waters of its harbor. So yeah, let's dive right in. And we're going to start with this really haunting local rhyme. Now, this isn't just some old bit of folklore. It gets right to the heart of the River Dart's power, a true force of nature that has literally shaped this town's destiny, bringing it incredible fortune and, at times, heartbreaking tragedy for centuries. Okay, so you have to wonder, right? How did this pretty small town in Devon end up smack in the middle of some of the biggest events in world history? Well, we're about to take a quick trip through time to see exactly how Dartmouth got on the map. I mean, just look at the timeline here. It's wild. Back in 1147, it's a major meetup point for the Second Crusade. Fast forward over 400 years, and its ships are sailing out to fight the Spanish Armada. Then, in 1620, it becomes this crucial, unscheduled safe haven for the Mayflower. And if that's not enough, it plays a massive part in the D-Day landings. That is just an incredible, unbroken thread of maritime history. And if you really want to grasp its role in World War II, just look at this number, 480. That's the number of landing ships that crammed into this pretty small harbor before heading for Utah Beach on D-Day. Can you even imagine that? The river was so choked with ships that locals used to say you could literally walk across the water to Kingswear without even getting your feet wet. And this, wow, this shows you the other side of the coin for Dartmouth. Unbelievable wealth. We're not just talking about regular trade here. We're talking about privateering, which, let's be honest, was basically state-sponsored piracy. Just try to picture the scene. A single captured ship gets towed into the harbor, and its cargo is worth so much it could basically bankroll the entire country for a year. The drama must have been incredible. All right, so let's peel back the next layer. Let's look at how all this history, all the conflict, and all that money was literally built into the town itself. Because the architecture here, it's not just pretty to look at. It's a physical record of the town's riches, its biggest fears, and what it believed in. Okay, so this is the town's ultimate protector, Dartmouth Castle. For more than 600 years, it's been standing guard right at the mouth of the river. And what's really crucial to understand is that this was one of the very first forts in Britain designed for gunpowder cannons. That was a massive leap in technology, and it was all built for one reason: to protect all that valuable trade from French raiders. But here's the thing, one fort just wasn't gonna cut it. The town had a layered defense system. You've got Dartmouth Castle as the main outer shield, right? It even had a giant iron chain they could stretch across the river to stop invading ships. But if an enemy somehow got past that, they'd come face to face with Bayard's Cove Fort, a tough little Tudor blockhouse just waiting to blast them with cannons at point-blank range to protect those wealthy wharves. So what exactly were they protecting with all this firepower? Well, this. This is the Butterwalk, and it's basically the ultimate symbol of just how rich the merchants were. Built back in the 1630s, it's this stunning row of timber-framed houses propped up on these massive granite columns. That design created a shaded walkway, an arcade, where they could sell valuable goods, like butter, hence the name, and keep them cool and out of the sun. It was a total power move, a statement of wealth and clever business sense. And it wasn't just locals who were impressed. Its importance went all the way to the top. Get this. In 1661, King Charles II gets caught in a nasty storm at sea. He takes refuge in Dartmouth, and where does he set up shop? He holds court right here, in the Butterwalk. That just goes to show you, this merchant's house was so grand, it could double as a temporary royal palace. But, you know, underneath all that official history of kings and cannons and trade, there's another layer to Dartmouth, a much spookier one. We're talking folklore, ghosts, and long-held secrets. This is the stuff that gives the town its really unique and sometimes kind of chilling atmosphere. So let me ask you this. At a spot in town called Dead Man's Cross, something really bizarre happens. If you go there at exactly midday, the shadows from the signposts line up in just the right way, and they create the perfect illusion of a man hanging from a gibbet. It's like this ghostly echo of some long-forgotten execution. And trust me, the strangeness does not stop there. The whole town is like a cabinet of curiosities. You've got a mummified mouse behind the bar in a pub, apparently for good luck. There are stories of a phantom coach racing through the streets at midnight. The tomb of that powerful merchant, John Hawley, people say it's cursed. And of course, you have ghosts, like the Gray Lady who haunts one of the inns. Oh, and the constant rumors of secret smuggling tunnels crisscrossing under the town. Okay, so for our last section, let's talk about the people behind all this. Because castles and ghosts are one thing, but it's the real individuals who really forged this town's identity. If you had to pick one person who just is early Dartmouth, it has to be John Hawley. This guy was a real character. He was a massively wealthy merchant, a super powerful politician. I mean, he was mayor 14 times. And on top of all that, a pretty ruthless privateer. He's the perfect example of how that era mixed up civic duty, raw ambition, and yeah, that legal piracy we talked about. And his reputation was huge, even back then. So huge, in fact, that most people are pretty sure he was the real-life inspiration for the shipman in Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Think about that. One of the most famous characters in all of English literature was probably based on this guy from Dartmouth. All right, let's jump forward a few hundred years to meet another local who completely changed the game, Thomas Newcomen. Now, he wasn't a rich merchant or a famous sea captain. He was a local ironmonger, a preacher. And yet, right here in this little town, he invented the very first practical atmospheric steam engine. You know, the machine that would go on to power the entire Industrial Revolution. No big deal, right? And the absolute genius of it was how simple it was. Here's how it worked. Steam fills a cylinder and pushes a piston up. Then, a quick spray of cold water instantly condenses that steam, creating a vacuum. And then, this is the brilliant part, the normal air pressure around us, the atmosphere itself, does the work, forcing the piston back down with incredible power. This simple idea changed absolutely everything, starting with being able to pump water out of flooded mines, which was a huge problem. So that brings up a really interesting question, doesn't it? Why have so many of us heard of James Watt, who came later and improved the engine, but not Thomas Newcomen? This is the man from a small town in Devon who kicked the whole thing off, who invented the engine of the modern world. And yet, he's still one of history's great unsung heroes. Why is that? And that really brings us to the final thought here. If these old, ancient stones in Dartmouth could actually talk, which story do you think they'd tell first? Would they tell us about the quiet prayer of a crusader just before he sailed off to the Holy Land? Or maybe the whispered secret of a privateer hiding his treasure? Or would it be the heartbreaking farewell of a young American GI about to leave for the beaches of Normandy? I think that's the real magic of Dartmouth. All of those stories, and so many more, are still there, just layered one on top of the other, waiting to be found.